Welcome to Key Concepts and Summary for Economic Principles on Week 8. I'm so happy that we are finishing this amazing journey. We have learned so many things that I'm sure they will help you out with your professional and academic endeavors. So let's see what happened this week, right? We review macroeconomic policy around the world, international trade, and globalization. So let's see the key principles the key concepts that I want to make sure you remember during this week. Okay. Uh, as we know, the diversity of countries and economies across the world is a huge universe, right? So we have to check it specifically what is on each of those. And it's important to understand that macroeconomic policy goals for most countries strive toward low levels of unemployment and inflation, as well as an stable trade balances. Stable trade balances is a key issue for every economy, and that is something that you should remember. Economists analyze countries based on their GDP per person ranked as low, middle, and high income countries. So let's say low income countries are those that are earning less than $1,025, that it's less than 1% of the global income. They currently have 18.5 of the world population. The middle income countries are those with per capita income of between $1,025 and $12,475, which is around 31% of the global income. And they have the 60.9 of the world population. And the high income countries are those with the per capita income greater than 12,475, which is the 68 approximately global income. They have 12 of the world's population. And you should remember the regional comparisons tend to be inaccurate because even countries in those regions tend to differ from each other specifically. Another key concept that we should remember is the absolute and the comparative advantage. A country has an absolute advantage in those products in which it has a productivity edge over other countries. It takes fewer resources to produce a product, and the country has a comparative advantage when it can produce a good at a lower cost in terms of other goods. So countries that specialize based on the comparative advantage normally gain from globalization and from international trading. As we know now, the benefits of reducing barriers to international trade are many. Tariffs are placed on imported goods as a way to protect sensitive industries, also for humanitarian reasons, and for protection against dumping. Traditionally, tariffs were used as a political tool to protect certain vested economic, social, and cultural interests. But right now, the World Trade Organization has been and continues to be a way for nations to meet and negotiate in order to reduce these barriers for trade. The gains of the international trade, as we know now, are very large, especially for smaller countries that do not have the same competitive advantages than the bigger ones. And basically, those are beneficial for all the world's economy. Remember then when we are talking about protectionism, it's like an indirect subsidy from consumers to producers. There are three tools for restricting the flow of trade. Basically, are tariffs, import quotas, and of course, the non-tariff barriers. When a country places limitations on imports from abroad, regardless of whether it uses tariffs, quotas, or non-tariff barriers, it is believed that they are practicing protectionism. Protectionism will raise the price of the protected good in the domestic market, which causes domestic consumers to pay more. But domestic producers will be earning more. Now we know that as international trade increases, it contributes to a shift in jobs in many ways, and there are including all the industries where that economy does not have a comparative advantage, and toward industries where it does have a comparative advantage. Global trade should raise the average level of wages by increasing productivity. However, these increase in average wages may include both gains to workers in certain jobs and industries and losses to others. Um, in thinking about labor practices in low income countries, for example, it is useful to draw a line between what is unpleasant to think about and what is morally objectionable. For example, low wages and long working hours in poor countries are unpleasant to think about, but for people in low income parts of the world, that um, may be the best option open for them, right? So practices like child labor and forced labor are morally objectionable, and many countries refuse to import products made with these practices. Uh, we remember these are certain examples that have happened with American companies producing abroad that have faced not only public scrutiny, but also some penalizations for those practices. Finally, we have the trade-off on trade policy. International trade policy certainly has income distribution effects. This is hardly surprising as all domestic or international competitive market forces are disruptive. They cause companies and industries to rise and fall. A government has a role to play in cushioning workers against the disruptions of the market. However, just as it will be unwise in the long term to clamp down on new technology and other causes of disruption in domestic markets, it would be unwise to clamp down on foreign trade. In both cases, the disruptions bring it with economic benefits. So, with this, we are ending this course. I'm really hoping that you have learned all the tools that will help you out to advance in your future endeavors. It has been a pleasure sharing with you, and good luck and many blessings.